talking of cautions, these are our potholes in the railway line. So 10% of our railway line is under cautions. These cautions then don't allow us to go beyond a speed of about 10 kilometers when we are within the caution area. Removal of these cautions is very critical in terms of ensuring turnaround. So that is our infrastructure part. When we are talking of the need to rehabilitate infrastructure, these are the cautions. We are talking of about 254 kilometers with 67 cautions. So these need to be removed for us then to be to have a quicker turnaround in terms of our traffic. In terms of our tractive power and rolling stock, again, as NRZ, we have a bit of a challenge. NRZ has a total of 68 mainline locomotives. These are our D10s and D11s. The D11 has capacity to haul about 1,700 tons. And the D10 is slightly smaller. But the challenge we have now is out of the 68 NRZ mainline locomotives, only 14 are working. And the rest, about 54, are stable and they need upgrade, either upgrade, replacement, or refurbishment. The age profile of these locomotives, the mainline locomotives, we are looking at the youngest being about 30 years old, 30 to 44 years old. And in terms of the average lifespan that is expected for a locomotive, for a mainline locomotive, is 25 years. So effectively what it means is all our locomotives have outlived their economic life. We can, however, pump in life into these locomotives through refurbishment. This refurbishment, depending on the spares, the major spares that we are replacing, costs between 750,000 to 1.5 million. And if we do that major refurbishment, we are looking at an additional lifespan of about 10 years. And the lead time for us to get the spares for these locomotives is about 6 to 9 months, because our locomotives are old, and so as a result, the spares are manufactured as per request. Of money to fix them. And number two, they are no longer in sync with what SADC resolved, because in terms of the SADC resolution through SARA, it was agreed in 2015 that we have to move from vacuum to air brake. When we are talking of vacuum, this is an old braking system, and you cannot haul a bigger load because of the braking system. So we are looking at also the need to convert these wagons from vacuum to air brake. If you have, I'll give you an example. If you have a load, when you are using air brake, you can take up to 50 wagons. Each wagon weighs between 54, it can take 54 to 60 tons. You can take 50 of those. So effectively, it means you can take a lot. But if you have vacuum braking system, you can only take a maximum of 22. And now what we are doing with other SADC countries, you find that in some instances, you get your load from one of the countries like Botswana. You are forced, Botswana brings in 50 wagons into Plumtree. You then have to separate the load. So we need 3 loads for 3 trains to run to take that whole fleet of 50. So it's not cost effective. It's also not convenient even for the customer. So we are working on projects like the conversion from vacuum to air brake, so that we can also maximize on economy. If you check our records, in terms of salaries, we are paying our salaries on time. Yes, we don't have enough money to pay and to compete with other private companies, but at least we are paying an allowance of $200 over and above their salaries, their RTGS salaries, to cushion employees. And I can say, given the history of NRZ, where they are coming from, they are grateful, though they are not satisfied. They always expect better salaries. We don't have any dispute with our currently serving employees. The alleged dispute, which we see through Twitter and social media and the media, was as a result of dismissed employees. These dismissed employees had we had sort of cartels in the organization. I'll give you an example. In 2021, we fired about 56 employees. And in 2022, we only fired 11 because they had gotten the message. In 2021, about 14 of those had stolen a wagon full of break blocks and copper from Davuka. Remember, I said a wagon is 54 tons. So they moved that wagon. I don't know how they did it, but the wagon ended up at Mpopoma empty, without the brake blocks and the copper. And it was a cartel, so it was very difficult for us to trace what really happened. So we had to send an inquiry team. And what helped us is one of the employees, in terms of sharing the loot, they could not agree. So he then volunteered information. That assisted us in terms of getting exactly what happened to the wagon. They sold the scrap to some scrap dealer in Gweru and sent the empty wagon to Mpopoma. So we had to go through the disciplinary hearing process. The case involved engineers, wagon examiners, and artisans. Everyone was involved. So it was a well-organized process. And from that, we were advised that, no, this is not the first time we are having disappearance of wagons. We also had similar cases in wagons full of maize and other customer goods were also disappearing. So we wanted to send a message, and they went through disciplinary hearing and they were all fired. And I can say, in terms of these cases, in as much as some of them are still before the courts and they are sub judice, 20 appeals, we received 20 appeals, 14 were dealt with by the Labour Court, and all were decided in favor of NRZ because there was overwhelming evidence. So it's not like we're targeting employees, but there was a culture of self-remuneration that was there. And the employees felt like they were protected. So that's why they had to form an association of XD employees. This is the first time I've seen such an association, but nonetheless, everything is a beginning. But because I know that what we did was correct, even when media was inquiring, I would always tell them that if they are aggrieved, we have proper processes to follow. There's a Labour Court where they should appeal. That's why we have the Labour Act. They have to follow the processes. Cases are not decided on social media. They are not decided on Twitter. People can shout at me on Twitter and everything. But at the end of the day, the legal position will prevail. If they are innocent, they will just come back. I don't know anyone of these employees. I'm fairly new, and I don't have any preconceived cases or perceptions against them. And they were not making any economic sense. We have a contract where NRZ in 2003 signed with a company called FMX. They were being given a space for credit. And we can't say a government guarantee because it was just a letter from government. And it falls short of a guarantee. But NRZ took space of up to 12 point something million on credit. These space were very expensive. At times 2 or 3 the normal price of space. But because NRZ had no choice during that time, they would just borrow the space until the debt ballooned. And in 2018, NRZ restructured the debt, whereby all the interest was capitalized, all the space that were rejected were then accepted, and a monthly accrual of interest was done, and it will be capitalized on a monthly basis. The contract was not sustainable, number one, in terms of the cost of the space, and number two, in terms of the interest. So we had to hold the ordering of space in that company in abeyance in 2021. Also, we had to enter into a payment plan where we were paying 125,000 per month. But when our foreign currency inflows dwindled and our requirements increased, we then started failing to meet the obligations until such a time when the company took us for arbitration and we engaged the government for a debt assumption whereby we're going to get a loan from government. Government will then pay payments, and in turn, NRZ will then pay government. And this process is ongoing. We also stopped the ordering. We also cancelled non-performing contracts. Among them, one of the locomotive hire contracts, when the terms and conditions were not favorable with Greenwood NLPI, we were expected to pay these fees even if the locomotive is parked. And at one point, because of the terms and conditions of that contract, one of the locomotives was taken by Zimbabwe, and we had to pay 3 months lease fees, which we are disputing up to now. We billed 3 months lease fees. And we had to pay all the money that was required, about 24 million, then it was a lot of money to Zimbabwe. And we never benefited from that locomotive, but we billed a lot of money. We are still negotiating with the company, but we then realized that we were not going anywhere with such a contract. So this is one of the many contracts that we cancelled, that were not giving value to NRZ. We also stopped ordering items without cash flow support. There was a situation where NRZ would just go to tender for rail, 16 million, 20 million, 54 million, when we had no cent. And then someone wins the tender, pays the state procurement board price now, and then expects to get a return from that contract. When you then try to cancel that contract, you then face some difficulties and legal resistance, because you have created an unnecessary obligation when you know that you don't have money. So we have tried by all means to ensure that whenever we are ordering something, we have cash flow support. Then we eat what we kill model. We have also reduced the fuel consumption by more than 600,000 liters diesel per month for the same locomotives and trips through plugging all loopholes and firing those that were involved in thefts. We had a situation when there was a lot of pilferage on the fuel side, from the procurement process right through to the locomotives when the drivers are on rail. So we had to attend to those issues. Number one, we had to introduce escorts by security officers, and number two, we had to put a tracking system. And through that, normally NRZ was using between 1.8 and 2 million liters per month. Now we have reduced it to between 800 and 1 million, maximum 1.1 per month, for the same 10 kilometers, for the same distance and same locomotives.
For these and other stories, visit our website www.263chat.com. Follow us on Twitter @263chat and like our Facebook page 263chat.